Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 491, and today we're doing battle with Galio Volibear. And so I actually had to scroll back through the channel to make sure that we've put together a Volibear video. We did it, right, with the release of the Fates Voyage Onward, but we haven't really revisited the Big Bear ever since. And so, he really ran into some serious problems with the initial onset of Fates Voyage Onward with Warden of the Tribes running around. It was very tough to where if your opponent played Warden of the Tribes on turn 8, gave all of their units +5/+5, they probably just won the game outright before you could even play your Volibear. But in the circumstance that they didn't, as you rolled into your Volibear turn, dealing 4 damage to a bunch of units that just got +5/+5 doesn't kill any of them, and then he just doesn't really do anything, especially if you're like, oh boy, well, I can attack with my 10/10 Volibear into, I guess, 13/13 Warden of the Tribes. And so now that the Warden of the Tribes has been nerfed and doesn't have as much of a space within the standard meta, the Galio Volibear deck has a chance to come back and be relevant. And so at its core, this deck doesn't have too much to do with Volibear. At its core, this is a Formidables board control deck. And so what it's really looking to do is get some big Formidables on board. You're going to be generating stat bonuses with the Durand Sculptor and with the Darkened Spear and the Petricite Charger. And then ideally around turn 6 or turn 7 or so, you'll be able to champion strength all of those big units into your opponent for a game-ending blow. Should that not be enough, whether or not that's because you actually had to trade your Formidables away instead of letting them survive, or you just didn't draw your champion strength, this deck does have much bigger top end than pretty much anything else in the format, with the Anakas coming out of Darkened Spear, Galio, and Volibear. The big bonuses to Anaka, Volibear, and Galio, as long as Galio has an additional +1 health from Balin, is that they do count as Titanic units, and they will be cheapened up by 1 point with the Valir's Prophet, should we have the Sigil of the Storm on board. And so, in my opinion, if we were in week 1 of the format, we could talk about this deck a little bit more. Given that we are 6 weeks into this meta, nothing has really changed with this deck. I think I'd rather spend my time talking about some of the specific card choices we've made here, as opposed to the kind of gameplay patterns with this deck. And so first and foremost, in terms of the sigils, as we would get with Valir's Prophet, I don't think it's worthwhile playing any of the other sigil cards. We aren't trying to play some kind of ramp deck here. It's just kind of nice to get Volibear on board on turn 8 instead of turn 9, since the games tend to end on turn 8 or so. And so ideally, if your opponent plays their champion strength on turn 8, you can play Volibear, maybe kill off one of those units. Well, I guess you're not really going to kill off any of those units because they all just got +4/+4. But being able to drop your big unit the turn before, or the turn of the other format's big plays, is a pretty big deal. We're not trying to be a ramp deck. We would just like to play our big spells a little bit earlier. Next is the Mage Seeker Jr. If you asked me a week ago what I thought of Mage Seeker Jr., it's just complete garbage and trash and doesn't belong in these decks. We've played quite a bit of the Freylord based Formidables deck in Eternal. It's one of the decks that we topped for that Mastering Runeterra Eternal event with, but that was a different space, right? The Mage Seeker Jr. really gets to interfere with action. He gets to interfere with the likes of Samira, and that's just not what you get in Standard. Like, I understand people like jumping into the Standard format and they're like, oh cool, what's this Janna deck doing? It's playing 0 mana Windborn Mariners, it's playing the draw 2 card Bird for cheap. It's playing that burn spell at a -2 cost. They have all these reduced cost things. How do you counter the cheap stuff meta? You play Mage Seeker Jr., but Mage Seeker Jr. doesn't even stop any of that stuff, right? Those are a handful of units and a spell that costs 3 mana anyways. And so he doesn't really do too much in terms of combating the Janna decks. You can make a Slipstream more expensive against Nyla, whatever, but the Mage Seeker Jr. just doesn't really do it for me. Now, over the course of the past week, with the meta shakeups, with a lot of Sunken Temples starting to become quite popular, and with the big Bilgewater Elephant that gives you free elemental spells, you could make an argument that the Mage Seeker Jr. does have a place that belongs, but at the end of the day, I would rather just play the Explorer. He can be much more useful in the sense he can just blow up the landmark, but he can still challenge down other units, get involved in combat. He can gain some health if you need to. You can quicksand down a Varus. He's good against the likes of Jax Ornn. He just does so much more than the Mage Seeker Jr., and so we aren't playing him. And then last but not least, you'll see a lot of these Galio Volibear decks that only play like 8 spells. You'll see like 3 Sky Splitters, 3 Gentleman's Duels, and 2 Champion Strengths, and that's just not enough interactivity to me. And so I've currently got the 2 copies of Harsh Winds in here. I'd like to fit in one more spell. I maybe like, just because the way I play, I would kind of like a Cataclysm because I love how it interacts with Darkened Spear and Balin. Maybe it needs to be a 3 Sisters. I want just one more spell in here. I need to play a little bit more before I figure out where that spell is. Last thing to kind of talk about is the Petricite Charger. If you are thinking in mind with the best of 3 season coming up, with the Worlds Qualifier coming in, if your plan is to just ban Janna all of the time, you can consider to start cutting Petricite Chargers, right? You really want this against the P&Z based decks to shut down their removal spells, because it doesn't do a ton against something like Scouts, or it doesn't do a ton against stuff like Jax Ornn. And so you really got to kind of pick and choose where this is going to be good. Now, I'm kind of up in the air where we're going to ban Janna. I think that, we'll probably ban her most of the time, but with the kind of consideration that the most common lineup is going to be the big lineup out of the Duck Cup from this past weekend, to where you're playing Nyla Janna and Seraphine Sett and Scouts. He has quite a bit of play in those P&Z matchups, and then has some minor play against Scouts, not taking damage from the Misfortune Love Tap. And so we are playing the full sets of Petricite Charger here. This is one of the kind of first cuts that I typically make. And so that's the deck. That's what we're doing battle with today. Before the battles begin, we would typically pay the pay-to-win price, but everything in here is already premium. Volibear, the only card in our deck today that has not been turned premium, and so we're looking pretty good. I told you this is something that we play with some frequency, You got to get these Freylord and Demacia cards out here and ready to battle. Okay, so up against Gnar, Jarvan, Garen, the big thing that's going to happen with this, I assume this is a Warden of the Tribe's deck, especially seeing Garen in here. I don't think this is just Elites with Freylord in it. I think this is probably a Warden of the Tribe's deck. I'm going to just hard mulligan and look for Balin. Balin tends to be the most important card for us in this style of match. He's what lets us develop board and get on board faster than the opponent can, and we can wear down their board before they're able to come in and play their Warden of the Tribes kind of cards. Alright, everybody's got a Broadwing. We'll try and hold back on combat since we do have Balin. I'd say it's not too common that our Petricite Broadwing does not get involved in combat here, but if we can get him to roll into the next turn and get these Balin stats, that would be pretty ideal. Okay. He just dies. Sad day for you, but, if we had the 0-4 bird against the opponent's 0-3 bird, just gives us a chance to take over board. Definitely want to do some board takeovers as we've got triple Galio in hand. We do not want to be making trades. We want to be getting into these combats and having our units survive. Oh, that's a Petricite Charger. I was trying to hook in the Battlesmith. It's just not a possibility. All right, another Charger turns up. Not bad. Not bad. We are just the slightest bit bigger than the opponent here. Gnar comes in. Don't have great blocks on Gnar. We can block and have our units not die, but, I mean, we're about to come into these big Galio turns. I'd prefer to just let the Gnar flip at this point and then see if we can't draw a combat trick or get something else happening. Just a little bit too soon to give up on these guys. Now with the Pioneer, who do we want to take? There's probably not going to be an equipment or a landmark, so we're leaning towards the Explorer's Blunder. If we were able to like attack and survive into the Gnar, I would feel a little bit better about taking heal. I mean, as it stands, we could look to say play Pioneer, take the heal, Gentleman's Duel, one of these chargers into Gnar, and then get the heal after that. Maybe that's the way to go about it. Let's see, we'll lead off with this Pioneer. He should be able to get himself into a decent combat, at least come in and fight down the Battlesmith. Are we going to see some combat tricks? The Sky Splitter. I think I kind of want this Pioneer to survive. What I want to see happen next turn is I want opponent to be adding stuff to the board so that we get the chance to drop our Galio. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and try and take this unit down in the middle of combat. We can still heal it back up a little bit so that he's a little bit more combat relevant for the next turn. But I definitely want to be able to get Galio on board before he attacks. So let's, you know, if we can clear out some board, maybe that'll give him some incentive to add another unit. Gonna have the second combat trick. He lets us take down the Saurion to keep his Battlesmith. Interesting. Okay. So if we do manage to get Galio down, we're going to have, you know, the mana to cast the Shield of Durandi, and so we'll see if that comes to fruition as well. It's kind of odd how this has gone. We're about to just get smoked by Warden of the Tribes. It's not it's not what we want to see. Here's Galio. We're still looking good, even if he plays a 4 Demacia. Interesting attack. Alright, I'm just going to keep looking to add the big boys in here. It's just got to be a Warden of the Tribes, right? That's he's gonna smoke us with the Warden. There's not anything we can really do about it. Maybe not. Well, it's tough. Like, we've played so much Glacial Saurion in this format, I get confused as to whether or not people are going to be playing this stuff. Like, he's played 3 subtypes at this point, right? Or 4 subtypes at this point. He's played Dog, Elite, Yordle, and... interesting. He's played Dog, Elite, Yordle, and... Reptile. So weird. We just dead in this combat? We should have... There's the Warden. Okay. It exactly showcases why Volibear did not work in the previous format. But I'll be honest with you. In all of the games, I think that is the actual first Warden of the Tribes I've played against since the balance patch came out. And so it's not something I particularly expect to see often. Into the next one, though, up against Janna Seraphine. So it's not the Sett deck, it's the Janna and Seraphine here. I'm always curious how I want to start these games off against the PNZ-based removal decks, especially a deck like Seraphine, to where they don't stack up on as much like Mystic shots, right? They typically aren't playing stuff like 3 Mystic shots, 3 high notes, right? It's like 1 Mystic shot, 1 high note, and a bunch of other small things. Like, I don't like playing the Durand Sculptor and have it just get killed. Like, it's not going to get killed on this board because he just spent all of his mana, but It's always, you know, curious. It feels like you get such a win against these decks when you drop the Sculptor and it just doesn't get aced. So hopefully she can do a little bit more surviving here. I mean, the Darkened Spear doesn't sound terrible. It does let us continue to build up our strength, right? A lot of our opponents' removal gets negated with the larger health that our units get. So adding those bonus stats into the deck is kind of good, and we should be, you know, pretty close to curving out the remainder of the way. All right. See if we can't get at least another stat or two out of the Sculptor's health bonuses. But right, with our Sculptor now having 3 health, he needs stuff like Aftershock or the Divine Whirlwind to try and take the Sculptor down. These 1 and little 2 extra points of health can turn into so much across the course of the games. Curve just doesn't want to work out, though. I just keep itching to get 2 units on the board. I mean, we can play a champion strength next turn if we want to, but doesn't feel like our board is big enough.
Fill your lungs and cry, Janna. I've come a long way from a flying stone bird.
Let's get a big chunk of damage against the Scrap Trap. Try and protect against it as best we can. And then I don't feel like we're at any real risk of dying here soon, and so I don't feel like we need to push for the champion strength. The only downside on this board is the Scrap Trap does kill our smaller plays. So going to get involved in combat and end up losing a little bit of something, but I do kind of want to set this up so next turn we're able to next turn we're going to be able to come at him with the Volibear. Heat the metal? Is that what the Disciple of Doran says? Heat the metal. Your flavor text. I don't know, it says hammer on it. I hope their spirits will guide my hammer. The Disciple of Doran. Looks like you're out here doing book reading, Disciple of Doran. It doesn't it doesn't look like you're doing anything in regards to blacksmithing, hammering. I'm going to hold on to the Darkened Spear here. You know, it would be the most mana efficient thing we could do, but we're going to get to drop the Volibear this turn, hopefully clear out his entire board, and then if we need to play a Naka, we have access to it. One of the things I get worried about at this stage of the game is like putting a Naka down on, say, Valyr's Prophet, and then opponent just never killing it. I know he's the lowest value unit we have here. We could safely put it on, say, a Petricite Broadwing, but I don't like running into these spots to where we need to hit on the Anaka, and it's just stuck down here on board. Alright, let's try to zing these dudes. I don't think he's anywhere close to playing a Pursuit of Perfection, right? That's the card that would really scare me at this point. His Janna just got up to 6, so he's probably at like 12 or 13 or so in terms of getting those big stats on board. Now with this, I think I am just going to drop a Naka at this point. Like next turn, we're just going to open attack, and then we'll play a champion strength after, and then we're going to play a champion strength the turn after that. And so if the champion strength on this upcoming turn gets denied, then we should ideally be able to take him down the following turn. He's churning through spells here, though. Are we just fucking dead? He's dropped down to 4 mana. Jeez. He's waiting on that Pursuit of Perfection to hit the board.
How about a duet? Light, stage, amp. All right, let's jam.
All right, well, the concussive palm is a bit of a bummer, taking our Volibear out of the combats. He's not going to be able to flip this turn either. So how do we feel about still just playing champion strength? Oh man, the Portal Pioneer makes it so bad. I was like, the words about to come out of my mouth were like, well, we don't get a great champion strength because we're not going to just get the knockout blow, but taking Seraphine and the Tail of the Dragon off the board would be pretty good. And so it's like we could play it this turn, clear out board, and then next turn still try and come in with the champion strength. I think that, well, the other thought that I kind of have is, like, in terms of getting hit by a Pursuit of Perfection, we can try and take it down with the Quicksand, right? We've given up our Harsh Winds at this point, but we can take the Quicksand to disable the Overwhelm so we don't just get killed. I guess we do have 3 units at this point. I was thinking we only had 2.
Are you amused, staring at the dirt?
So we'll see what happens here. Again, he has to block everything, so at least if we get the Seraphine off the board, that feels kind of safe. And then we'll just have to kind of hope with this next turn that he doesn't open with the Pursuit of Perfection. There's no guarantees with it, right? You know, one of the interesting things with the Sunken Temple is it kind of messes with how you're able to game plan, right? Since it shuffles your hand into your deck and you redraw a new hand every turn. If he has Pursuit of Perfection in his hand right now and he's like, oh, joyous occasion, I get to open attack, or I get to play this thing as my first card for the turn, he just may not redraw into it, right? And so in terms of game planning, it can be a little bit more challenging for them to do. Still pretty scary, though. He's going to have like 1,000,000 cards in hand at this point. Okay. He's got 5. He should have 6 at the start of next turn unless he makes another play. Okay. Oh, is the game messing up as well? Looks like he has... How many cards does he even have? 6? There's been these kind of like artifacts of card backs that just sit around for some reason. So this is another tough spot again. Like if we wait until next turn to play the Volibear, or I'm sorry, to play the champion strength, without it flipped, like how able are we to come in and win these games? He's already got to untap with Seraphine like 100 times, but like having Volibear just attack next turn isn't. It just can't be enough to win the game. We have to have him flip, and we don't have any other way to just deal damage this turn. Right? So I think we're kind of stuck champion strengthening. And then... you know, clearing out the 3 units, and then hopefully next turn we'll just have enough stuff on board between the Volibear flip and then all of the units that we still have. This deck typically only plays 1 deny, so we might be in the clear here. I mean, there's really no telling all of the edits that you can make. There's no real way to tell if we're in the clear, but you're not particularly in the clear. Without having the Volibear on board, he's not going to flip.
You cannot win.
This is the thing that's so frustrating about these matches is we probably lost this game like 5 turns ago. But you still got to come in and stick to it. We might be okay on this upcoming turn. I mean, we have to see what happens here, but we can open with the bear if he gets to clear 2 of the units off the board. It gets us pretty close to lethal. I think it's pretty much off the table now. This is where like a lot of these spots just feel so challenging to me in the sense that I really kind of feel like we could have I just took equipment. It's not gonna matter. We're just gonna attack and champion strength and attack again and hope it's enough to win the game. But it's like we had an opportunity to take down the Sunken Temple many turns ago and just didn't do it. So I'm not sure at what point this game was, you know, on the opponent or on us. But we have this attack. He's got the Concussive Palm in hand, so we're not going to be able to deal any damage. Okay, we can call it here. Sorry about that. I just like feel like when the games are that close, we have such a chance to win, and it really kind of cuts into the number of games we're able to get in after that. It's always a struggle for me. Like I want to see if we can't pull off that epic victory, but when we sit around for like 25 minutes in a 3% win rate game, I feel kind of bad for the viewers to have to. I feel like I'm taking away something from you all, as not opposed to me. Like if I was just playing on the ladder, I would have already conceded that game. But if you don't leave the opportunity for the epic moments to turn up, then they never turn up, right? it's kind of a struggle. All right, slightly different this time though. Up against Seraphine Sett instead of Seraphine Janna. This is one that, you know, kind of worries me a little bit in the sense that, you know, when we're playing against Janna, she doesn't have a great answer to stuff like Volibear, right? They have stuns and stuff, but they don't have they don't have showstoppers, right? The showstopper can come in and just remove the Volibear from the game, and so it does give the opponent a little bit of a potential edge. So with this, I don't think we want to attack with the Hound this turn. I'd like to get the opportunity to play Balin and then have him be a little bit protected. And so I'm going to wait until next turn. And you know, this is just kind of like mega obvious what's happening in terms of this Petricite Hound, in terms of if we make the attack here, you know, we very clearly have a trick. He's very clearly able to make well-informed decisions as to whether or not he wants to block with his Maryam. So, not amped about that attack in that space. Right, though. We can still build up some love here. We'll get the Balin in this turn. He's certainly gonna be safe now that opponents added a bigger unit. We can drop the Pioneer next turn. We'll pick up the landmark destruction this time. See if we can't be more ready for a Sunken Temple. And then we've got decent build up towards a champion strength. So this is kind of interesting having the charger turn up. My main concern for this turn is that we're going to run into the Sunken Temple. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick up the landmark destruction. We'll take it a little bit slower with Balin here. And then as we roll into turn 7, we'll try and have that be our champion strength turn. So we can just kind of take this little chip shot onto Seraphine, attack with everybody else. I'm fine to play the Sky Splitter now, right? Because if opponent's going to have the removal spells to drop the Hound, then we still have the backup Sky Splitter after this. And Sett comes in. Alright, well he changes things. We'll have to play it a little bit slower in the face of him. Okay. We have the mana bank we need now to kind of set things off. We can Sky Split onto the Balin, play the 2/3 cost units, and then champion strength next turn. Still, the kind of interesting thing there was picking up the Petricite Broadwing. It makes the mana work out a little bit better. To where if we had played a Sky Splitter on the previous turn, we would be able to make the mana work here. But I think that's still the route we want to go. We're going to play the Broadwing, we'll play the Charger, and then try and champion strength next turn. Alright, what you got for us, Fam Jam? Gonna drop that coin? Drop that deuce? that's what I think it was probably the playtest name. The drop the deuce. Alright, here it comes. 3 mana getting spent on something. Alright, so now we have a big boy's decision to be made in the sense that if we want to play Champion Strength next turn, we can't play Petricite Charger here. And then if that's going to be the case, are we still even like really winning the game next turn? I don't think we are. I think we have to just drop the Petricite Charger here. We still have decent hooks, right? We can hook Sett with the Scholarly Pioneer, or probably bounce spell him back. We can hook Seraphine with the Broadwing. Balin was a pretty strong draw, giving us a second Balin bro to get the attacks in with. It just has to go next turn. But these Seraphine decks are one of the reasons why I kind of consider moving away from banning Nyla Janna, in the sense that you do have to kind of contest with denies and stuff. I don't know. It's tough. All of the matchups are so close. I think it's very easy to talk yourself into or out of anything in this format. A flurry of spells coming in. What you got? Rocket Barrage, Caustic Riff? That kind of sucks. If I had anticipated we were going to lose 3 units in both of our challengers, probably would have approached that a little bit differently and just attacked. That's brutal. Then Balin's attack isn't even that good. The smooth mixologist takes him down. Alright, GG. Oh, that's brutal. Brutal, brutal. Come on, Volibear, you gotta come on board and give us some successes somewhere. I don't, man. Maybe it was just good enough, right? In the sense that on the turn to where we kind of gave up on the champion's strength, maybe it was just good enough to try and contest taking his units off the board, trying to contest taking away the Seraphine and the Sett, and so he has to just kind of play his removal spells in the middle of combat. That's tough. But here, different match up against scouts. I need units that cost less than 3 mana, and so we'll take the full mulligan. We're almost assuredly going to find some kind of unit that costs less than 3 mana within this full mulligan, and we got a nice curve here along the way, and so I like how that turned out. Gonna go ahead and send in the Petricite Hound. Just too easy for opponent to have good blockers now. It's if his play is Durandi Sculptor, it's kind of easy to see something like that come in. But it's like anytime he has, like, say, Mirai Warden, then that's just a complete bummer of a turn.
I've come a long way from a flying stone bird.
So if he has a follow-up 1-drop, who is it more important for us to give the health to, the Petricite Charger or the Petricite Broadwing? I don't think the Charger really does enough in this space. Let's just add the Broadwing in. And then this way, if his plan is to, say, trade with the Broadwing, then fine. If his plan is to take down our Durand Sculptor, then we still have the good challenger for next turn. But right, it's like if we play Petricite Charger, then he's like, cool, I'll block. You know, I'll play my Mirai Warden and block with this random bullshit 1-drop. So I like adding the bird there. And then we do need to try and contest this Durandi Sculptor here. Ideally, he's just going to be playing like 3/3s, right? That's what this deck is pretty good at. It doesn't have a ton of 4-power units, right? It's things like Island Navigator. So I think we should be able to pretty safely take down the Sculptor and attack with Balin and not have Balin die.
You've made your path.
He's gonna die now, but up to that point, feeling good. Let's see if he wants to make a scout attack. I'm curious if a Quinn ever comes down here.
Hello, new best friend.
She does not. I'll just put our Medius blocker on board. We just need to survive a little bit, right, until we either get the champion strength going or drop a Volibear. So I'm going to put the Charger down. I mean, I guess maybe we could have just put the Prophet down. I get concerned with the Prophet as to where the Sigil takes up that board space before we're able to get Volibear on board, and a lot of times we really need that 6th unit on board, and it doesn't seem impossible for us to pick up here. Charger's still good. He can survive that love tap, so he's only taking the 2 points of damage. He's not going to get one of these mega hooks into the Charger. He is going to get a good hook into Balin and into Petricite Broadwing, but he's not going to be able to attack with Misfortune here. And this is one of these spots to where if we had a combat trick, the game would just be over. We would be able to run this down, but Fortunately, we do not have one.
But I look right fierce.
Can't block that fearsome.
Love ya.
Sad day. This is why it blows my mind, those versions of the deck that just have 8 units or 8 spells in it. It's like we are hurting for just like literally any spell at this point. That is a champion strength, but it's insane to me that people are able to try and do that. Now, it is a bit of an interesting spot here. I think we were very commonly just adding both of our units, but the question is on next turn, in that do we end up just dropping a Naka somewhere? And that's a pretty healthy maybe. It is probably a champion strength turn for the opponent, though. They can't play it now because they only have 7 mana, but this is one of these spots to where he's probably going to be overbanking on the board. And then we might need to try and counterspell his champion strength with our champion strength. He did give up quite a bit in terms of good scout units, right? And so if his angle is this for Demacia or a no rally champion strength, so you get to attack with your scout units twice, he's not going to have access to that. So we'll see what comes up here.
My strength is yours.
Genevieve. Alright, Anaka's not enough. Our units are too small. But we can grow. We can still play the Darkened Spear this turn. You know, we have 2. It's going to probably be a while. I don't know. That's like, I kind of want access to those.
Hold nothing back.
It's like he's gonna be going for that misfortune flip.
Captain's orders. Bullet to the
Okay. Gets us really close to leveling this Volibear as well. I guess it's like really close we can feel. Dealing that 9 points of damage helps quite a bit in terms of getting him flipped, but not exactly where we need it to be. But now that love tap can come in, oh, he is going to give us the chance to attack before he attacks. I was going to say, like, I definitely see some argument in attacking before we play the Anaka, right? This is going to be a lethal, and he's going to have to block with some stuff. But I didn't take him up on it, given that I thought that he was just going to be immediately attacking, and well, I mean, I guess the health doesn't really matter on these Petricite Chargers. I wonder if we played that Anaka on just the wrong unit. If we shouldn't have put it on one of the Prophet or the Hound so that they could help survive the bullet time. The fourth attack, the big bullet time coming through.
Meet them head on.
Ah, fearless.
How much damage is this? 21 plus 9. What's that? 30. Gonna get that Volibear flip. Now here's one of the interesting things that came up for me with Volibear is on the splash screen or one of the loading screens. My wife was in here talking to me and she was like, "Does that thing have braids?" And I was like, what are you talking about? Does that thing have braids? And she's like, that thing on the screen, what is that? And it was this. It was the level 2 Volibear. I hadn't seen his sweet haircut the with the braids. Are these neck braids? I don't know. I don't know what kind of braids these are, but she had no note of Nyla over here just doing battle with the giant ass bear. She's like, oh, he's got a nice haircut. And that's the way that me and my buddies usually talked about football. And so just get drunk watching the game and then comment on the post-game interview, the outfits that all the guys are wearing and stuff. That's the way I spend most of my time watching football.
That's Captain Fortune.
Alright, Captain Fortune, what's going on here? We still end up killing Genevieve, so at the end of this combat he's going to deal the 3 damage from the bullet time and have a Fleet Feather Tracker. I mean, that feels like a pretty big win. You're going to get the double storms off the Volibear this turn. Oh, no, you won't. I always forget that he doesn't flip him till round end. But should still be pretty close to lethal. If he plays 1 unit, blocks Volibear, he's going to be taking 12 damage.
I'll be damned.
Another delightful target for the Cataclysms, though, right? If it's the opponent's attack token and we have our flipped Volibear on the board, just send that Cataclysm right in, you know?
My life or theirs.
I know I've been thinking it all day, but I can't remember if I've said it. But I'm planning on playing this in the open, the Volibear Champion Strength. I'm planning on playing Janna. So we have the Janna Teemo Champion Strength, and that just leaves us with Nyla left. I really want to find a way to get Nyla Champion Strength out there. It's unfortunately it's not going to come together. I've looked at it quite a bit, and the cards we need just don't exist. Like, if you want to push towards elusives, there's just not enough, and I just can't really justify playing something like Nyla Misfortune, but I really want to. Might just do it anyways, you know, but just get the whole crew, you know, the whole Fates Voyage Onward team together, and get them ready for the battles. So how bad can this turn be, right? We can play a Naka. The major concern is that he's going to be able to hit us for 6 damage with Misfortune. Man, I don't think that's really a thing. He can take Volibear off the board, but he's only got 1 challenger at this point. Alright, I'm just going to put down the Charger. Make sure we have another unit that can soak the Love Tap. I don't think there's too much he can do to actually kill us here. This 4 Demacia can go on to Quinn. That's kind of whatever. I think we got to be safe. The thing to watch out for would be, like, say we had a 1 health unit on the board, or a couple 1 health units on the board, and then he would be able to like attack through with Misfortune or something. That's not even the case. I'm trying to like Kaisa the Misfortune keywords and abilities across all of these cards, and it's just not quite right. Alright, 4 Demacia. You got it.
Still heart, steady aim.
I wonder if we should have loaded up a Naka this turn. Right, if we'd put a put the Darkened Spear onto the Petricite Charger, we could have blocked Quinn and killed her. Probably should have done something in that sense. Alright, big booms come across our units, sure thing. I'm gonna go ahead and just drop it now. Make sure we have a blocker for misfortune, so if his last card is the +2/+2, don't have to worry about. I don't know. I'm coming up with a lot of stuff, but I don't feel like any of it really matters. I guess it's better to think about all of the angles than none at all, huh? Please. It's all about just sending these units right in. You just attack with everything and you're doing good. Sorry y'all are only going to get 4 games today. These went way too long. I don't know why this is a 27-minute Scouts game. Did he just quit? Did he give up on it? Okay. I think he gave up on it. We'll put a Naka down here just in case, so if he plays a champion strength, he can still attack around and ensure the kill. Like, the only way I can kind of envision this going down is if he had like a champion strength, or if it's like we attack and then he has a like removal spell for the bear or something. I don't know. Like, he blocks both of our units and then has a removal spell for the bear, takes away the overwhelm. So I think with the Anaka, that just kind of locks it up. All right, let's mark that one a victory. We got out of here without everything being a complete loss. And we can pull this up and talk about it a little bit more. And so, it was a fair set of games, not the highest win rate, but I feel like a lot of those games were close and kind of riddled with misplays, and so it didn't feel that terrible. The spaces that I kind of like worry about with this deck are, I like adding in the Scholarly Pioneer because it does so much, right? We ran into so many spots against, say, like those Janna Ionia decks that are like, okay, well, we can blow up the landmark, or we can quicksand away the abilities on that guy, but have we like lost the game at that point anyways? Like, I don't know, like taking off, like the opponent getting like one draw through with the landmark is kind of okay, but after that, it's just kind of like champion strength or bust. And so I'm not certain if we need to just be kind of like more all in terms of getting our kind of game plan on board and getting back to that more kind of classical champion strength space to where you're just saying, okay, I'm going to do my most powerful thing, you do your most powerful thing, and then we'll just see who wins at the end of the day, right? We're just gonna start jacking it and putting our dicks next to the wall and see who's standing farther away, right? And so whoever wins that dick measuring contest comes out winning the game. And so that's where champion strength really comes in terms of a lot of these games is, if you're doing your most powerful thing on turn 8 and we're able to do our most powerful thing on turn 7, then we're able to just win the game before you can even get to stroking, if you will. And so, I think I might need to just kind of focus in more on that thought and more on that idea, and maybe that'll kind of place itself out. And so maybe that is the thing, is we're able to cut the 2 Scholarly Pioneers, add in one more spell. The spell I was really wanting across those games was Chain Vest, and just kind of helps with the curve. It helps in these spots to where you want to curve with a 2-drop like Durandi Sculptor into a 3-drop, and you only have 1 mana, but you can't play any of your combat tricks. And so something like Chain Vest really helps in those kind of spaces. It's another way to soak up love taps from Misfortune. You can play it and protect your Durand Sculptor on turn 2 from opposing Mystic Shots. And while it doesn't feel like the most fantastic Mystic Shot protection, you're typically pretty happy to be in the space to where you trade your 1 mana spell for your opponent's 2 mana spell, then they have to play another removal spell on your Durandi Sculptor just to get it off the board. And so, I could definitely see that kind of thing fitting in, but that's kind of what I'm leaning in. I at no point today wanted a Mage Seeker Jr. I feel pretty good that he's gone, but the Pioneer is probably going to get the cuts before the Open gets here. The last kind of space I have in this deck is with the Petricite Hound. It's interesting in the sense that these curves to where you Petricite Hound into the Darkened Spear are quite good. They're kind of one of the big snowball draws, but as you can see in a lot of the games today, he just doesn't really have the stats to stand up to a lot of the meta. And so, like, you don't really want to just be playing it and trading, right? I don't want to play my one drop and just trade. I want it to take a bit of effort from the opponent to have to fight through a Petricite Hound gaining bonus stats and stuff. And so, it is completely fair with the Hound to say play nothing on one. On turn 2, you play a Duran Sculptor, and then on turn 3, you play a Broadwing, and then the Petricite Hound is what lets you activate the Broadwing on turn 3. But it just ultimately feels like, as this is turned into more of kind of like a value-oriented meta, that the Petricite Hound just doesn't really fit in that space. And I just want like a unit with some pretty meaty stats on it. And so those are what I'm kind of considering as well. That they do give you that kind of like surprise punch on some of those, champion strength turns, to where you have like 4 units and you want to get up to 6, and you're able to play a Petricite Hound and another 2-drop and then kind of have at it. It works great in those situations, but it's a very kind of polarized kind of card in the times when it's good and the times when it's bad. And so not entirely sold and certain there. But nonetheless, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.